Good afternoon, everyone. It's David Schlotthauer here in the home weather office for Friday, August the 11th, 2023. In today's video, we are going to give you, or I'm going to give you, my very first winter 2023-24 forecast, since some of you were requesting it in my previous videos and even in the previous couple of months. So I'm excited to bring you all this. So I hope you enjoy this video. So let's get started at what we are going to be looking at, right? Let's take a look first at our El Nino, because this is the main driver for this winter season. We have a moderate to strong El Nino that is in place, mainly easterly weighted, which means the warmest anomalies are actually occurring throughout this region. That's kind of the area that I have circled out here in black, with sea surface temperatures anywhere between 3 to 4 Celsius above the long-term average. They have cooled off a little bit, but not enough for this overall El Nino to just weaken all of a sudden. We're going to have this El Nino around for the winter season, and that's why we're going to show you my overall forecast, my temperature and precipitation forecast, with all other forecasts out there that will show you. The Atlantic is really warm too. That's going to drive the winter season for the eastern seaboard and also for the deep south and even for the Great Lakes, which we'll talk about here in just a little bit. Now, as far as how strong will El Nino get, first of all, for the winter season, it's going to become more stronger than it is now. Right now, we're roughly about 1.2 to 1.3 Celsius in the 3.4 region, so that's in the Central Pacific. We're likely to see the El Nino really warm up even more further, potentially reaching 2.2 Celsius above the long-term average. And again, that doesn't seem like a lot. That's roughly 3 to 6 degrees above normal, or maybe plus or minus or so. But even so, that doesn't look like a big deal. In a much wider sense, it does impact the atmosphere. We get more rainfall in many areas, while other areas get severe droughts. We'll be looking at the precipitation outlook here in just a second on where those areas are going to be. And then El Nino is likely to peak between the winter months of October, maybe even December, all the way through early winter, even into midwinter, before we start to see a gradual decrease. But even so, anything above 1.5 is considered strong, and we will be at that territory all the way through the entire winter season, I'm afraid so. And that, therefore, we're going to have a lot to talk about when it comes to my daily winter videos that start usually in late November. So looking at the CanSIPS model, this is one of my climate models that I always like to look at. You're going to see a lot more of these with my monthly and seasonal forecasts, because this is pretty much on what I use to make predictions. Not only that, there's other sources out there like the Climate Prediction Center and other factors. So the CanSIPS for January, February, and March, those are the three main months, just like our summer months are June, July, and August. Even so, summer goes into September 21st, and it doesn't really technically start until June 21st. You know, you kind of have to round it off, right? So June all the way through August are summer months. Our fall months are September through November. Then our winter months are basically January, or even perhaps fall months even into December, and then our winter months are January through March, and you get the idea. So this forecast shows that we're going to have a pretty strong subtropical jet. That's the green line that I have outlined here on the map, so you guys can see that nice and easy. That subtropical jet is likely to impact areas such as northern, central, and southern California, the southwestern U.S., including for the deep south. It's going to bring a lot more bigger storms, more stronger ones, while our polar jet is going to split. We're going to see a splitting flow here in the northeastern Pacific, where that polar jet goes north of Washington and Oregon and then comes back down across the northern U.S., and the Great Lakes into the Northeast. What this usually does, it leads to stronger storms, especially for the Deep South, with more of the bigger storms kind of parked over Western Canada and Alaska, as you can see here. is look at the mean sea level pressure forecast. And again, this is just a forecast, folks. I want to make that really clear. This does not mean this is what's actually going to happen, all right? We all know too well that models have a lot of errors with them. They have a lot of faulty data sometimes, which can throw things off. This is just a guidance of what might happen based on past analogs, based on other factors like El Nino, a warm PDO, or a cold PDO, a warm or cold NAO. There's a lot of factors that kind of drive these winters. So we can see on this particular forecast from the CanSIPS model, we have a very amplified Aleutian low, which is south of basically or right over the Aleutian Islands of Alaska. It's typical what happens during El Nino, and usually it is very amplified over the area. There's another model out there, the climate forecasting system, which we'll show you here in just a bit, shows a much stronger Aleutian low and much further off towards the northeast or off towards the southeast, so somewhere over here, which could really bring more impacts to the west and the southern U.S. So, and you can see here we have high pressure centers over California and over the Rockies, but below average mean sea level pressure anomalies are forecasted for the winter months. Anyways, this is a 3-month average and not just 1 month, let alone. So this is a look at our precipitation forecast. This is in millimeters, of course. You're going to have to do the conversion. This is probably in about 5 to 10 millimeters. It's about a tenth of an inch to a quarter of an inch of rainfall in inches. So hopefully that helps out a lot. But we can see on the CanSIPS model, below average anomalies of precipitation, supposedly, according to the 3-month average here, is showing below average rainfall for Oregon, Washington, Northern California, for Idaho, and also for portions of Montana, with below average anomalous precipitation potentially over the Great Lakes and the northern tier U.S., while above average precipitation is likely across much of the southeastern U.S. Yeah, you guys don't need any more rain. Well, you do need more rain, of course, but this could be a very bad winter for you all. Eastern seaboard and the northeast, that means more bigger nor'easters, more bigger snowstorms, and yeah, there could be catastrophic impacts potentially. We'll show you the overall forecast that really that really shows you with what I mean by that. With near average precipitation for California, but that's just on the CanSIPS. Temperature-wise, yeah, you're going to see below average temperatures according to the CanSIPS model over the central and southern U.S., including for the southeastern, like Florida, likely to see below average temperatures and above average rainfall, so a really cold, stormy winter ahead. Versus the west here, or the northwest, likely to be dry and warmer than average. We've just been seeing a lot of that lately. Last winter was warmer than average. This winter could be the same, including for the northern tier of the United States, likely to see somewhat less Arctic outbreaks, more similar to last year. In fact, last year is pretty much a textbook of what we might see this year. Again, really warm weather for the northern tier. Not very many Arctic outbreaks or Arctic intrusions in southern and central Canada, which could be good news, again, with near average to below average precipitation. So now let's move on forward with the climate forecasting system. So there's 2 climate models that we really look at. One of them is the CFS and the CanSIPS. So the CFS, which stands for Climate Forecasting System, and the V stands for version, and of course 2 means the version number it is, version 2. And this is the geopotential height. I'm not going to outline like I did here, so I can draw this up because it would just take too much time. But again, similar to the other model, is we have a subtropical jet that is going to be in place down here. We can see that jet. Not exactly like that. Let me see if I can draw it a little bit better, but something like this, kind of digging across central Southern California, Northern California, the deep south, and the southeast. Again, with this split flow that's going to be in place. You can see it right in all in here. This whole flow that's going to split off. Really consistent among the 2 global or the 2 or the other climate forecasting, or the climate model that we looked at, the CanSIPS, showing a similar output here. Now, this is below average geopotential heights, which means lower heights, more storminess, lower pressures over the area off the coast of California. The divergent flow aloft, that means convergence at the surface. That means more rainfall and storminess likely. And that leads us to this. This is the January, February, March average sea level pressure anomaly. And yes, that Aleutian low on an overall basis is further to the east. But if we looked at the monthly basis, it would be more like over here, which would be quite close to California and Oregon, bringing a lot of stormy weather. And look at this, way below average sea level pressures across the area in the 3-month mean average. With the stormy line, we call it the ISO line, which is over here, really battering Northern California. And that just means a lot of rainfall. So looking at the precipitation anomaly for January, February, March, again, our winter months. I know I should look at December, but mainly January, February, March is where winter is in full swing. And yeah, look at this. I mean, lots of rainfall, snowfall for the West, California, Nevada, or if you are in Arizona, the Four Corners, especially, I mean, exceptional amounts of rainfall and snowfall, perhaps for the eastern seaboard, and exceptional amounts of rainfall for the southeast, above average rainfall. You need it in Texas and the Rockies. Some good news for you folks living in these areas. However, below average precipitation anomalies likely over Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and Montana. Very similar to the CanSIPS model. So a pretty dry winter overall is anticipated for the Pacific Northwest, including for maybe the Great Lakes and even for portions of the central upper Midwest region where there could be below average rainfall amounts. However, though, putting the overall mean, if I'm going to draw a line and it's in my overall forecast, if you are south of this black line that I drew up in the US, you're going to have at least above average precipitation. And that's going to be reflected in my precipitation chance forecast that I made by hand. And it's not the climate forecasting or the climate prediction centers, which has a whole lot different. Yes, we have our different opinions. Now, I'm telling you, the CFS is really warm biased. Not as warm, though, in Canada, but I mean the entire United States here, looking at above average temperatures. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen. I think the above average temperatures will likely happen up here in the northern tier and the Pacific Northwest, while much of the Midwest and the Deep South here, including the West, will likely see below average temperatures because more storminess, more rain, maybe some snow for the lower elevations cool the air overall. That leads to more cooler daytime highs. So therefore, and I just drew a face, only if I could put the eyes there. I like to entertain you guys. I really do. There's the mouth. There's the teeth. Yup. A face. I don't think I do good at drawing a face on the United States, but you get the idea there. Above average temperatures if you just base it off the climate forecasting system. So now, what is my overall winter 2023-24 temperature forecast? Well, my forecast, this is mine, not the climate prediction centers. I want to make that clear very easily, okay? So there's a 33 to 40% chance that temperatures could be above average over the Pacific Northwest, with 50 to 60% chance that the Great Lakes, especially the northern Great Lakes, could see above average temperatures. Leaning below average temperature chances extend across Texas. If you're in New Mexico, Arizona, and Southern California, including for southern portion there of Louisiana, and near or equal chances of either above or below average chances for temperatures extend across California, the midsection of the United States, and the Southeast. Looking at our precipitation anomaly forecast, again, like I said, this is my forecast and not the Climate Prediction Center, so when you visit their website, it's going to be a whole lot different than mine. This is basically what I think might happen based on my analogs and based on what I looked at and did some research. So the Pacific Northwest will certainly likely to see below average precipitation, well below average season there, with a 60 to 70% chance that you will see below average precipitation for the winter. That includes for December 21st through the end of March, with below average 50 to 60% chances of that occurring over the Great Lakes. So a dry winter, I wouldn't say dry, but definitely below average, less frequent of big snowstorms, rainstorms, whatnot, right? Depending on your geographic location. Now, as far as the deep south and the southern U.S., including for California, we're likely to see leaning above to likely above average. I mean, look at Florida here that I put down, a 60 to 70% chance for you all to see above average precipitation. That means more flood concerns, more heavy snowstorms, maybe further south, so maybe like central Georgia, central Alabama, central Mississippi. Big time snowstorms potentially, maybe historic ones for the eastern U.S., the eastern seaboard, and the Northeast. More on that in just in the next PowerPoint slide, which we have here. Looking at that overall forecast for this winter, yep, this is what is on the map. This is basically what's on the dinner plate, and that means what? The West. We're going to start there first and then work our way east. So make sure you're listening, having those ears wide open. Very wet conditions are expected over California, similar to last winter where we had the devastating floods. We had some serious mountain snowfall accumulations. We're probably going to see something similar to that this winter for California, including for Southern California. Wet conditions likely for much of the desert Southwest. Cold and wet conditions across the deep south of Texas. If you are in Florida, if you're in Georgia, cold and wet conditions. And then, we're likely to see damp weather across northern tip of California, including for Oregon and Washington. But look at that. Unfortunate. We're going to see warm and dry conditions with more offshore wind events, more fire potential maybe in that area. I hate to put that on the map, but unfortunately, that's just what is in my forecast. So really dry winter there for Oregon and Washington. Snowy weather for the Rockies, potentially including for the Northeast. I mean, quite a bit there. More on that in a second. Arctic blasts. So now people are probably looking at this and be like, what, David? You're predicting an Arctic blast after like literally saying above average temperatures. Well, above average temperatures is in a 3-month period, right? You're probably going to have you're going to have at least 1 or 2 Arctic blasts, but they're not going to be long lasting. More similar to with what we had last winter. Again, last winter is pretty much a textbook of what we can expect. Only that the Great Lakes will probably not have Winter Storm Elliott type deal again. That might happen more for the Northeast. Cold weather potentially likely at times for Wisconsin. Nothing like what we had last winter or the winter before. Definitely a milder one, but still on the chilly side, including for the high plains in the Midwest of Missouri. Chilly conditions, but not too cold, not extremely cold, not extremely warm, just on the chilly side. Mild conditions there for if you're in Indiana, if you're in Ohio, if you're in Michigan. Lake effect snow conditions possible, likely for the downwind side of the Great Lakes. You know those areas. If you're in Lake Huron, Lake Michigan, if you are in Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, you get the idea. Some lake effect snows are expected there. Severe weather is in red, so just be aware we might have more bigger severe weather events, especially by like November and December when the jet stream really cranks up. And then most importantly, I wanted to show you all this. There is going to be a big, huge elevated concern, and I repeat, big time, big time, and I cannot repeat it more than any times else. Big nor'easters, big blizzards, possibly historic blizzards. It's going to be wild. It's going to be miserable. Even Ryan Hall has said it in his video. Even Direct Weather, I'm sure he has said it. A lot of forecaster agencies are predicting a very big winter for the Northeast. More snowstorms, more blizzards. make sure you get that snow shovel ready. Make sure you have your snow plows ready to go. Make sure they're gassed up for the winter season, because it could be a long one. It could be a long haul, and don't be the one that gets stuck out there in that. So just be aware, very wild, egregious winter is on the way. From very significant flood problems potentially for California, big snows in the mountains there, versus across the deep south and the northeast with big storms also. Again, that subtropical jet is going to be much more stronger this winter than ever before, and could lead to big these systems to really bomb out more easily than ever before. Well, anyways, I sure hope you all liked my winter forecast. This is the first outlook that I have made. I'm going to have another one probably in November, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Do my predictions change in November, or do they stay the same? We shall find out, right? So if you want to get more updates on the winter weather near you, please consider subscribing, sharing this with your family and friends. Let's get this out to as many people as I can, because again, yes, a few of you, more than a few of you, have been asking really nicely for me to make a winter forecast. So you guys got to please share this out with a lot of people. Let's get this video out to as many people as we can, and give this a huge thumbs up, and leave a comment of what your thoughts are on how you liked my outlook. All right, well, that's going to do with today's video. I will have a tropical weather outlook and discussion this afternoon.